The night I turned 17, some of the heavier things came to a head. And so, obviously throughout this time, I'm wondering what of this is real, what of this isn't. And the night I turned 17, me and my friends, we were walking down a long hill at night. I lived in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, so, country roads are nothing new. And so we're walking down this long hill, and at the top of the hill, a cop car is flashing around its lights like it's looking for somebody. And scared that maybe somebody made a noise complaint about us or something, me and my friends start running back to my parents' house. And while we're running, one of my friends shouts out, "It's all right. Isaac's the only one that's going to get in trouble."
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember in that moment that it all kind of settled in for me, that there had to be some truth to the things that I was reading online. And it also hit me that my 16, 17-year-old friend knew to joke about this. Like, my friends my friends knew to laugh, my friends knew to joke about it. There was some awareness of the fact that I would have a different experience, even within my peer group.
Yeah.
But nobody had had a conversation with me about it. So my parents probably knew, and other people in our community probably knew, but nobody had ever said that to me. Nobody had ever thought to tell me that maybe I would be treated differently if we got stopped by the police.
I think we're good to go.
Hey everybody, it's me, Tamika, and welcome to this edition of Hairitage Talks. It's National Adoption Month, and I am super excited about our guest today. Isaac Etter of Identity. Isaac, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, It has been a long time coming. I've been trying to get you here for a long time, so I'm really super excited about this conversation.
Absolutely, me too.
So go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell everyone who you are.
Absolutely.
And tell us about identity and parenting different.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Isaac. I'm an adoptee. I think that's kind of a good way to start. I was adopted at 2, and I know we're going to get into a lot of my story, so I won't give the whole thing right now. But from my own adoption story and from my journey with my family and finding my identity, I began to speak in adoption when I was very young. And as I spoke more and more, I was seeing the same issues in education across the country. And that led me to start Identity in 2021, which was about reimagining post-adoption support, first in transracial adoption, and now we've gotten into other areas as well. But some of, I think, our claim to fame has been how we've helped adoption agencies really rethink how they're preparing families for transracial adoption, but then supporting them throughout the lifelong journey, which is what we like to specialize, is how can resources be lifelong. And then out of our work at Identity, we wanted to reach more parents. We wanted to give away more stuff. We wanted to create more ways in which parents could understand their children. And so we started a company called Parenting Different, which is a free newsletter for adoptive parents. And in that, we give away a free resource every single week. We make a ton of parenting content for adoptive parents, for every journey that an adoptive parent could go through. And then we also host a number of trainings and things like that every single month that parents can sign up for if they need them. And so we do a lot of adoption education stuff. We care very deeply about the experience that adoptees are having in adoptive homes. And our goal is to create a world where children feel seen, heard, and valued. And so everything we create is around that idea. How can adoptees be growing up in homes where they feel these things? And I think the more resources that parents have, the more support that they have, and the more understanding that we give them so that they can translate down to their children is how we create that world.
Man, and I'm telling you, it's amazing the work that you're doing, what you've done, your story, and how you've intertwined it into what you do every day.
Thank you.
And I have a lot of respect for you.
No, same here. Yeah, it's mutual respect.
To be working in the space, to be sharing your experience,
yeah,
and the value that brings to other transracial adoptees that are coming behind you. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, likewise.
And the value that you're bringing for kids out there that I know are being impacted by your work. So thank you so much.
Yes, I appreciate it.
But let's just get real down and dirty into it. You know how I am, Isaac. I want to hear it. Like, what's your story? Yeah. What's your adoption story? Like, absolutely. Share with us, that journey that has prepared you for where you're at right now.
Absolutely. And so kind of like I mentioned, I was adopted at 2. And I think a key part of my story is that I was raised by my birth mother for the first 2 years of my life. which is not always a story we hear in adoption. We might hear that in foster care, right? We might hear about a time that a birth parent has parented. But in my story, my birth mom was trying to be a parent for 2 years, and then due to several factors, one of them being poverty, homelessness, things like that, she decided that adoption was the best route for her. And I think that's, I love starting my story that way, and think it's important because I think that there is a lot of times that we don't humanize birth parents in the story. We don't understand their side of it. And I find that to be a beautiful part of my story, that my birth mother did try to raise me for 2 years.
Amazing.
And so what's another unique part about my story is that the same day that she brought me to an adoption agency to place me for adoption is the same day that my parents went to have their first meeting to inquire about adoption.
Wow.
And so I was dropped off that morning, that afternoon. My adoptive parents went in to go inquire about adoption after 8 years of infertility. And one of the first pictures they saw was my baby picture. And of course, they knew right away, right? How could they not? If you've seen a baby picture of me, you would know too.
Come on now.
And so,
Love
they started the adoption journey that week, and I moved in with them a month later. Probably not a big surprise. I was a transracial adoptee, right? That's what we're talking about today.
Yes.
And so my family is white, and obviously I was a black boy and am a black person. And so growing up, coming especially from living with my birth family for 2 years now into a white home, there's a lot of transition there. There was a lot of early transition there. And so my adoption was more semi-open in the beginning, but then my birth mother moved to Las Vegas and my family moved to Pennsylvania. And so that's when my adoption came a little bit more closed, still with some communication, but also my environment changed, right? So when you live in the same town as your birth family, you're still getting some exposure to them, things like that. When we moved to Pennsylvania, we moved to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And Lancaster, Pennsylvania is known for Amish, right?
Wow.
So it's not known to be the most diverse place.
Oh
It's
my
no
gosh.
Chicago, right?
Totally culturally different.
Yeah, it's no Chicago.
Yes.
And so, you're not finding as big of a mix culturally. And from the time we moved here, that was very apparent in my life. There were 3 other black kids that I grew up with. They were also adopted. We were figuring it out together. And
Wow.
so that was what we had. And I always kind of like to say that, I think transracial adoptees tend to have 2 identity journeys. And so for me, the first struggle with adoption and identity was around adoption, understanding my birth mother's choice, understanding why I had to be placed for adoption. And that was not an unhappiness with adoption. I loved my adoptive parents, but just struggling with the idea that I was placed for adoption. I think many adoptees do this. And then second to that, I think became struggles with race and culture, because it's, not only is that a part of my adoption, but it's a part of my daily experience.
Yeah.
And so starting to wrestle with insecurity around looking different was the first one, right? It wasn't even about anything culturally or anything anybody said to me at first. It was just the simple fact that I looked different than my family. And I think children want to fit in more than they want anything else, especially when they're young and they're trying to make friends, they're trying to find their early community. And questions about why your family look different than you can be very isolating to young adoptees.
Absolutely.
And so those were my earliest experiences and insecurities around adoption before it became about maybe cultural things, so like race, bias, things like that. I didn't get kind of deeper into that world until I was in like middle and high school. And so to preface, my education on race was like Martin Luther King Jr., like Rosa Parks. So we're talking very, very elementary. Nobody was talking about race or culture or even my hair in this time period. I went to sports clips growing up. There was nothing.
Wow,
there
that
was
was
nothing.
rough.
Yeah, there was nothing special going on.
Yeah.
And so nobody knew what to do with my hair, including me.
Yeah.
But when I was 14, actually, I was on Tumblr, which was an old social media platform. Some people might remember it.
I remember Tumblr.
Yeah, I was gonna say people remember Tumblr.
Yeah.
Tumblr was a great platform, and then I was one of those emo kids who loved Tumblr. And I came across a hashtag on Tumblr one day called Blackout Day, and it was something that college students were doing in solidarity with a shooting that had just happened. So there had just been a young black man shot. This was early kind of Black Lives Matter movement, and there were college students who were wearing all black in solidarity with it. And throughout this thread, I was also being exposed to like a lot of very kind of heavy racial topics, whether you want to say like police, things about white people, things about racism in America, things that I had never come across before, conversations that had never even occurred in the community that I was being raised in. So as you can imagine, being a 14-year-old kid who has white parents, white friends, 3 black kids who also only know white people that are my friends who are also adopted, like just no exposure to this side of the world. This is the thread I come across. This is the thread I come across. And hearing heavy things, like, reading heavy things on there, sentences like all white people are racist, right? What is a black transracial adoptee with white parents, white siblings, white communities? What am I supposed to know what to make of a statement like this?
Yes.
A statement that, kids on the internet are going to come across, right?
Yes.
And so I remember that as I was kind of coming across a lot of this stuff, I had, 2 main thoughts. One of them was like, is this real, right? My perception of race was little to none, right? It was just that I happened to be black and my family happened to be white. I didn't understand that there might be an experience associated with it that was different than the one that I was living. And then the second was that if it is real, what does that mean about my family? What does that mean about my friends? What could this mean about this life that I've been living? And so I went throughout the next kind of year and a half, it almost became like a secret world for me. And some of the ways that I would express it was through my hair, actually. And so, I love
that.
I did all kinds of crazy stuff that I found on Tumblr with my hair, actually. There's a lot of pictures that will probably never see the light of day. But I'd see something on there and I would, find a barber shop and I'd have my mom drop me off and I'd go in there and ask them to do some design. I had dreads twice.
Okay.
I had Jerry curls once, embarrassingly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I did the...
You were explorative.
I was exploring. I was really exploring.
Yes.
But that for me, that was how I was connecting to this side of me that I was discovering online. Like this whole experience that was evidently happening that I didn't feel connected to or didn't really understand, but was evidently a part of me, right? Like, I couldn't do the same hairstyles as my friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I couldn't do like a little comb over part.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Comb over.
My hair wasn't built like that.
Yeah.
And so I was connecting and seeing people with hair that now I had something. I could do this, even if I shouldn't.
Yeah.
I could do this, right? And so this became, almost 2 years of my life that were spent like this. And then the night I turned 17, some of the heavier things came to a head. And so, obviously throughout this time, I'm wondering what of this is real, what of this isn't. And the night I turned 17, me and my friends, we were walking down a long hill at night. I lived in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, so, country roads are nothing new. And so we're walking down this long hill, and at the top of the hill, a cop car is flashing around its lights like it's looking for somebody. And scared that maybe somebody made a noise complaint about us or something, me and my friends start running back to my parents' house. And while we're running, one of my friends shouts out, "It's all right, Isaac's the only one that's going to get in trouble."
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember in that moment that it all kind of settled in for me, that there had to be some truth to the things that I was reading online. And it also hit me that my 16, 17-year-old friend knew to joke about this. Like, my friends my friends knew to laugh, my friends knew to joke about it. There was some awareness of the fact that I would have a different experience, even within my peer group.
Yeah.
But nobody had a conversation with me about it. So my parents probably knew. And other people in our community probably knew, but nobody had ever said that to me. Nobody had ever thought to tell me that maybe I would be treated differently if we got stopped by the police.
Can you unpack that a little bit more? Like, how did you feel in that moment?
Well, yeah, I think, heartbreak is one, but I think in another sense, there was a little bit of a sense of betrayal because I don't know what conversations were occurring in my peers' homes, but there was a level of educational understanding that
they had about it.
That people of color were treated differently.
Yeah.
Even if it was maybe through content or through media, maybe it was through comedy. But there was some level of understanding that they had that people of color had a different experience, that there was bias, that there was racism, but nobody had had those conversations with me. And so there was also a sense of a little bit of betrayal that I felt, because I wondered how they were confident in that, how they were able to make that comment, that joke, and I maybe wouldn't have known to make that joke. And so just kind of a sense of betrayal, a sense of kind of heartbreak, and then also kind of on the tail end, also a sense of fear, because it confirmed that I was about to walk into a world that I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And that was I think one of the harder parts, was then I went to college that fall and experienced these things, racism, bias, things from classmates, and I was dealing with like the culture shock of that, the shock of that, and if I had not had that instance, I wonder if I would have been prepared at all.
Yeah. Wow, such a powerful story.
Yeah.
One of the questions that comes to my mind is, after living through that, what would you say to transracial adoptive parents and foster parents out there who may not be having those conversations, who might be avoiding them?
Yeah.
Just because of the uncomfortability, right, of bringing
Yeah.
up conversations about race. Like, what would
Yeah.
you say to parents out there who are just trying to figure it out?
Yeah. Well, I think I would start by saying that, like, you have race conversations in small ways before you have them in big ways. And I think that a lot of times transracial families think about the conversation about race as the same way they think about the talk, right? We all, you're waiting for your kid to get to the point to where you finally sit them down and tell them everything they need to know about the talk, right? And a lot of times transracial families are operating in the same way, where they think that like one day their kid's gonna come home from school and have been called like a slur, and then they're gonna sit them down, and that's when it's the cue to finally have the hard race talk. And really, what your children need is conversations in small ways before they get to big ways, and understanding of what they might experience. And when your kids are young, so let's just say like 0 to 5, they don't need heavy conversations about race. They don't need you to sit them down and tell them about bias or race or anything, right? Because they're not going to understand it. But when your kids get into more like this 5 to 12 area, they are going to need to understand how maybe they should respond when things happen to them, right? And so you can think about race conversations as not only that it's not just a big thing, it's happening in small moments and small preparation, but it's also giving your children language to deal with moments that are going to occur to them regardless. And in a book I wrote about what to do at each age for transracial families.
That's you need to get parents. Make sure you get that book.
Yes. Thank you. That's how I have it broken down, is that, in 0 to 5, you're setting up a home environment where they understand that their culture is represented, and that they are not weird for looking different. So toys, kids' books, art, things like that. And I actually, in that chapter of that book, give special attention to hair and skin, actually, because I think one of the first race conversations that actually happens in transracial home is with hair and skin.
Absolutely.
It's the memory of our hair being a burden to our parents can actually be a race conversation. I think it is a race conversation because it's racial identity.
Absolutely.
It becomes how they go into their teenage and then adult years thinking about themselves, and hair, as you know, and as you talk about all the time, it's a part of our racial identity.
That's right.
And so that is the race conversation you're having with young children.
And parents, you got to run into those conversations.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You can't avoid them. You can't crouch back.
100%.
When it's uncomfortable, you got to run into the uncomfortable space.
Yeah. And when your kids are young, you can do it by making hair time beautiful, making it an empowering time, even if it's difficult for you, not letting your children into that difficulty as much so they don't feel like a burden, but making it something playful and fun that they can do together. And then as you get into some of those more uncomfortable conversations that are going to happen as your kids especially start to have different exposure, starting it with almost every transracial family inevitably is going to go through their kid having other people ask them why their parents look different than them, right?
Yes.
And that can a lot of times be your first deeper talk about race. How did that make you feel? What do you think about that? And getting into it, well, families can be, can look different kinds of ways. And obviously you look different than us. And you can start to dive into it in these small ways where you make race a comfortable conversation to have in your home. Because inevitably your children are going to need those harder ones, right? Yes. So it's not like you're avoiding those harder ones, but you're setting the stage. A lot of people don't set the stage. Like, you're setting the stage for those hard conversations actually to be more comfortable for you and to be more normal for your children. And so when the next instance happens, a kid's calling them a slur at school, well, then you can have a conversation. Well, hey, actually some people in the world don't believe that, white people and black people are equal. We don't believe that's right. Well, we want you to know that when these instances happen, here's how you should respond. And we're also going to be on your side, and we're going to protect you when these things happen. Yes. And so you start to give your child more language as they get older and as they start to experience more things for the things that are going to occur. It's not just this one big conversation. It's not this kind of looming thing that's hanging in the background. It's a daily part of your child's life. So it should be, in a sense, a daily part of your conversation in life.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't mean...
Especially when you live in communities where there are not a lot of people who look like your kids.
100%. 100%. Yeah. And it doesn't mean you have to have a big race talk every day, but it does mean that you should be aware that that is a part of your child's experience from a very early age. And so the more conscious you are, the more safe of a home you are to talk about those things, the better it is, and the more natural it'll get, the more comfortable it'll get. And then when you do have to have the harder conversations about, like, here's how maybe you should think about, playing at night. Here's how you should think about, areas in which you do things. Here's how you should think about confrontations or run-ins with the police or other authority figures. Those conversations become easier because it's not like the first time you're randomly mentioning race. Yes. You've been having racial conversations for a long time. And there was a story that was told to me recently. There was a mom who basically, she has white kids, and they live in a diverse area, and they were playing, her kids were playing hide and go seek with some kids in the community. And there were, 3 or 4 black kids there, and they wanted to play hide and go seek throughout the neighborhood. And the black kid said, we actually can't do that. Like, that wouldn't be a safe thing for us to do. We don't want to be hiding in somebody's bushes and something go wrong. And how that was a wake up for her. But every transracial adoptee should be mindful enough to say that.
Absolutely.
And I certainly wasn't.
It's called giving your kids tools.
Yes.
That's a tool.
And to her, that was a big wake up call about, the people are having a different experience.
Right.
And when she told me that story, I could only think about how many transracial adoptees were putting themselves in dangerous situations because their parents did not know or want to have that conversation with them. Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff that I try to share with parents, that you're helping your children be more thoughtful about navigating the world. You're not taking things from them. You're not roiding the world. You're not making the world this big racist place. Yes. You're just giving them language to navigate an experience that already exists, that they're going to have, and giving them the tools to navigate it.
Absolutely. And let's talk more about that cultural experience, because parents are parenting from a different place, right, absolutely, of race, and they really don't understand some of the things that could be problems, right, for their kids. And so how can they place themselves in those different environments so that they can have those cultural experiences? It's going to help them to be able to help their kids understand what might be an unsafe situation.
Yeah. So, I think the first thing that you can do is just be in a more diverse community. Like, as easy as that, that's probably everybody's advice, but it is true. It is kind of like 101 of transracial adoption, that if you can, obviously I know that there's probably a mix depending on where you live. If you live out in a really rural area and you happen to have adopted transracially, it might be less accessible. But really the best thing you can do if you live in a normal, small, mid-sized city is to just be in a community that your child is represented. So this is church, this is programs, this is schools, this is whatever might make sense for you and your community. But then it's also to make it a family thing. So a lot of times it gets segmented out, I think. So parents will tell me, well, we went to the African American festival this year, and we thought that would help, but it didn't help. But the problem is that you went this year. You haven't been going for 10 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And
Come on now.
Yeah, the problem isn't that you went. You know what I mean? It's the problem that now it's weird that you went. And so...
Don't be weird. I always say that.
Don't be weird. Yeah. And so if you're in a community already that's diverse, then
Yes.
your kids don't really remember you all of a sudden switching it up when they started having trouble.
Absolutely.
So they grow up knowing nothing else. And then also whatever you do, if it's your family involvement, if it's not something that feels like it's just happening for them, the better it is as well. And so like if you do want to go to the African American Festival, great. But go from their first year and take the family every year.
Yes.
Don't just go once you notice they're having identity challenges.
Right.
Because then they know
And
and
talk
then
about
they
how
hate
an
it.
adoptee might be feeling in that
Oh,
moment when
way
you
more
do
isolated,
that.
way more
Yeah.
isolated, way more insecure. Probably feels actually terrible going because then they're the black kid there with the white family.
Yeah.
And so then they feel even worse going. Instead of if they had always gone there and it was your community, you were seeing the same vendors you see every year. You were in the same
Yes.
mixes that you were in every year. Then it's like your family. Like it's not just like the first time you go to any of these things, it's going to be the most awkward.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? First time I go to any new festival, it's awkward, right? Because maybe I don't know anybody. If I flew here for a festival,
Right.
I wouldn't know any of the vendors. I wouldn't know any of the community.
Yeah.
I might be excited to go.
Yeah.
But, nobody's going to recognize me. You go for 10 years, the same
Right,
guy that's
Yeah.
been doing the jerk chicken is going to recognize
Yeah,
you. You know what I mean? It's like,
exactly.
it's the same thing. And
Yes.
so...
And that's that community aspect,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
You gotta have a community.
You get recognized. It's
Yes.
the same thing with the barbershop and salons
Yeah.
as well, right? This is why we suggest this. We don't suggest that you start going at 14.
Right.
We suggest you start going early and that it becomes your community as much as your child's. Like a white person can get their haircut at a barbershop.
That's right.
Right? And so you're not going to come out looking drastically different.
Exactly.
So you might look a
True.
little better too.
There you
know what I mean?
go.
You never know.
That's
you
right.
never know. There might be a fade happening that wouldn't happen
Yes,
otherwise.
absolutely.
Especially at sports clips.
Exactly. Oh my
And
gosh.
so there's all these ways in which it can become your life. And I think if it's not your life, you're always going to find a gap. You're always going to find that your child feels a gap. And it doesn't mean that your whole life has to dramatically change, right?
That's right.
And I think that a lot of adoptive parents start to be like, well, if I adopt transracially, then I'm going to have to change my whole life. Well, no. I mean, maybe if that's your main concern, you shouldn't adopt transracially.
That's right. Absolutely.
But it's like, no. It's like maybe you can go to a different church, but you can still go to like the small group of the church you were going before if you feel like that's a big community for you. Or maybe it's school, or maybe it's this or it's that. But like sometimes there can be multiple different ways in which this happens, but it's about creating a home environment that reflects your child. And that is the point of adoption, to be a child-centric experience, a child-centered experience.
Yes.
And so if we're adopting children and bringing them into our home, our goal is to create a home that creates the best outcome for that child.
Absolutely.
And that's not going to be in transracial situations by raising them in a community where they don't see anybody else that looks like them, where there's no adult figures that look like them, where they can't picture themselves as adults, where they can't connect to this racial identity journey that they're having, or they can't speak about the feelings that they have about adoption or looking different than you. And so we have to meet children where they're at, and that to me is the call of adoptive parents. It's not to bring a child in and tell them to forget about the past. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's not the call of adoptive parents, right? The call of
That's
adoptive
right.
parents is like, we are going to give this loving and stable home to a child who needs a home. And in that call, you're not saying that child now has to completely fit your mold. You're also in that journey saying, okay, this child has this experience, this experience, this experience. How do I create this home that represents their needs?
That's
and
right.
in
You need some
transracial-
aunties.
Yeah, exactly.
In Black community, we got aunties, right? They may not always be a biological auntie either.
Yeah.
They're just people
They're
in your
people.
community
100%.
who can speak to your child about their experience and some of the
100%.
things that they're going through. And they know them as go-to people.
Yes.
Right? That
Yes.
I can talk to about the things that are going on in my life and I can be real with, right?
100%.
And that's going to happen, like you said, when you make it natural. I love that.
Yeah, it's got to be a natural experience, because it's also like, then parents start to feel weird about it too. You know what I mean? It's like it's an inauthentic experience a lot of the time, and if you make it an inauthentic experience, then it will just feel like an inauthentic experience, which means that you're way less likely to keep doing it.
Yes.
Right? 1 year and you're done.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love it. And be transparent.
Yeah. 100%.
Be transparent about your experience and what you're going through. I think the more that parents can be vulnerable with persons of color who you're trying to build relationships with, it's always helpful.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it goes right back to like the authenticness of the relationships that you're building. Like, that's why I try to avoid people from this idea of like you're dropping your kid off somewhere diverse. Like, you're not like finding a class and then just like dropping them off and picking them up. You should make it a part of your community as well, which is why I like ideas of like church, school, community things, because then you're actively involved in the community and you're building those relationships as well, which means that when things inevitably come up that you don't understand, you will also have a community.
Yeah.
And so that is, I think, another benefit to it, is that most of the challenges and hurdles that we talk about can be resolved through you being in community with people who are people of color that could help you navigate the first time your kid experiences racism, first time your kid experiences bias, knows how to have the right conversations with them at the right age. Because they're already happening in these communities. And so there's multiple levels of benefits towards transracial adoptive parents being in communities of color, beyond just for their kid. It's really, it becomes a very big blessing for them. And I've never talked to a transracial adoptive parent who switched churches, switched communities, switched anything, who did not find that. I never found one, at least yet. I mean, they're welcome to message me, but I haven't found one who has said this was a big regret. Because the benefits just start to become so stacked, because also, when we go outside of our own comfort, our own community, our own naturalness, we also dispel a lot of biases that are formed. And so
that's good, Isaac.
What you find is that actually the thing that you were nervous about underneath doesn't even exist. The fear you had about you not being accepted now did not exist. And so I think it's really important that parents do this.
So let's talk more about these resources that you got. I love it.
Absolutely.
You said the mission of identity is adoption isn't just an event, it's a lifelong journey.
It is.
We empower parents to foster genuine connections rooted in empathy and love. So what does a lifelong journey look like for transracial families?
Absolutely. Well, I think the adoptee experience is lifelong because adoption in and of itself starts with a separation, right? It starts with a separation from our biological families. And that can happen for a number of reasons, right? So I try to take the reason out of it and just say, like, we understand that, like, adoption is a separation. Adoption involves loss. And because it involves loss, it involves a form of grief. And when we take transracial adoption as another layer of it, we also see a loss of cultural identity as well. And so transracial adoptees tend to deal with levels of loss and grief when it comes to their adoption. And again, we all express this very differently. So I'm not saying that, like, everybody's going to deal with it through behavioral or big issues, but all of us feel it to some degree, right? And so I think being intentional about thinking about the lifelong journey of adoption is thinking about the fact that there are things in their biological home that would have been natural, right? So let's just say transracial, for instance, cultural things would have been much more natural, right? They would have grown up with people that look like them. They would have grown up with visuals of what they'll look like as an adult. They would have their hair would have always been normal to take care of, their skin, so there would have been these normal things that occurred. And if we want adoption to be if we want to help our children navigate it, and we want this adoption to be beautiful, and we want it to be this thing that we're helping these children build positive sense of selves, then we have to say, well, since those things would have occurred in their natural home, then we need to make sure that in our adoptive home, we're doing our best to create the closest things to that, right? And so we will make sure that, like, they're growing up in an environment where they see themselves reflected. And we will make sure that if we need to go to Tamika and learn about hair, we're going to do that. And that means we also do need to understand how, like, loss and adoption might be translated through behavioral, their sense of self, things like that. And so it's this intentionality that adoption causes a multitude of effects, one of them being the beautiful way that your family was built, right? But it has all these other things as well. And so when adoptive parents are mindful of all these things, they create these homes where adoptees do not feel like parts of them are accepted and parts of them aren't. And I think that a lot of adoptees historically have felt that way, whereas they may feel accepted as a byproduct of adoption, right? I know I'm an Etter. I feel good about that. Did I feel like anybody thought that I was black or recognized me as a black person growing up? No. Right? So there was this big part of me, this big experience that I was having, I was conscious of having, that nobody saw. Nobody acknowledged. Nobody made me feel like they saw the full me. And so we try really hard to create all kinds of resources that help adoptive parents really make their children feel seen for their full self. And there's a lot of ways we can talk about this in non-transracial homes as well, but we'll stay on transracial for now. But I think this is a big thing that all adoptees feel. They don't feel seen as their full self. And then also heard. I think adoptees need a way to express the complicated feelings that come with adoption. And in transracial adoptions specifically, they need to be able to have an outlet or an expression of some point for the ways in which they're having a racial experience that their parents aren't having. And adoptive parents have a very powerful opportunity to be that space. They have a very powerful way to be a space in which their child can be very honest about the honestly insecurities that come with being a child of a different race in a home that's white. Or let's just take it vice versa, which we see a lot now, a white kid in a black family. So these are all experiences of transracial adoptions that bring insecurity, that bring the need to vocalize. And so we can make adoptees feel really heard by creating homes that are safe for their true emotions. And those can be the emotions around race, and those can also be the emotions around adoption. A lot of adoptees have a lot of feelings about adoption that are not them not wanting to be in your family, but that are confusion around the circumstances that led to it. And homes need to be ready for this. And I think that
I love that. Feel seen and heard.
Yes, feel heard.
It's
and then you got to feel valued.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why that valued is there last, because I think that a lot of adoptees don't feel valued as their full self. And I think when you make children feel seen and you make them feel heard, they ultimately feel valued because they don't feel like they're having to leave anything at the door. They're not having to leave anything suppressed or hidden. They're able to bring their full selves to your family. And I think there's a shocking amount of adoptees that have never felt that. Shocking amount of adoptees that have felt like they didn't want to hurt their family's feelings. They didn't want to bring up these things. They didn't want to feel any more different than they already did. But I think parents have a really powerful opportunity to create these homes where adoptees can be their full self. And then as a byproduct of that, they get to go into adulthood being much more full. And a lot of adoptees have to figure out their identity on the second half of the journey. They have to put together all the pieces on that half. Just like me, I went on my own racial journey after I went to college, right? And many adoptees go on their journey to understand themselves after 18, after 19, after leaving the home. But I actually think that adoptees can leave their adoptive homes feeling more full, feeling a truer sense of identity, feeling much more grounded. And I think in that we create a different generation of adoptees that we can truly start to say that adoption was a good thing that happened. Adoption was a positive thing. And I think if we want that, we have to first create the homes where adoptees can fully thrive.
Yes, because adoptive families are beautiful.
100%.
When people are doing it in awareness and they're doing it
100%.
with an understanding that I have to parent differently.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, it's true. It's 100%. It's why the name works.
That's right. I love it.
And so, yeah, I mean, I get I think that on the internet nowadays we see a lot of range of adoption opinions. And sometimes when I see some of the harder critiques of adoption, I'm able to sit with them in a way that makes me understand the importance of the work that we do, because at the end of the day, when we have a hard reaction to something, when something feels totally bad or something negative to us, it means that in some ways hurt us in such a grave way that we feel that it is a totally bad thing. And I constantly am working towards creating an adoption experience for adoptees that would not leave them feeling that way. We can be hurt by the circumstances that led to our adoption. We can be hurt by the fact that we had to be placed for adoption or that we were placed for adoption. But can the homes that we were adopted into be places of safety, love, unconditional love that reshape our narrative around abandonment and rejection and turn us into people as adults who feel much more grounded? I think so. And I would love that experience for myself, just like I would love it for a ton of other adoptees, and especially adoptees living today. And so our work does that. Our work is meant to do that. It's meant to reshape the mindset of parents while they're parenting, so that when their child is displaying a behavior, they can look underneath that behavior and think, maybe this is not just connected to them not wanting to share. Maybe there's something else going on. And we can help them navigate the different ways in which adoptees display grief and loss so that they truly feel seen, heard, and valued.
Yeah, and their home becomes a place of healing.
Exactly. Homes can be places of healing.
I love it.
Absolutely.
This is so powerful. You guys have got to get connected to identity and parenting difference.
Thank you.
You got to get these resources.
Absolutely.
And you got to get in touch with Isaac.
Hey,
and he's
always here.
Yeah, he's here to help. Let's talk a little bit about what's next for Parenting Different.
Yeah, absolutely. So Parenting Different is our newest company. For a while, we had been working directly with states and agencies, and there was a growing number of families that knew we did stuff but had no way to access it. And so if you join Parenting Different, the newsletter, it's a free newsletter where we give away free resources every single week. And our goal is to keep doing that. So we have a number of books, we have a number of courses, a number of content that people can buy if they would like to. But one of our main goals in Parenting Different is to really help parents parent different, to be mindful of what their adoptee may be feeling, to rethink reactions to behavior, to look underneath the surface of their children more often. And so our newsletter is not only an encouragement and support to adoptive parents, but it also feeds them advice. It also gives them encouragement, support, and guidance in the ways that they would need to be more trauma-informed, to be more racially aware, and to be aware of all the different complexities that I think come and insecurities that come on all sides of adoption. Because adoptive parents do also feel their own levels of insecurity and scaredness and their own level of fear when it comes to being an adoptive parent, especially when you might think about open adoption situations. And so our goal is to create resources and support every week that help you navigate these things. And that's a fun effort for us. I mean, it's hard to keep up, but it's like it's what drives us, is this idea that every week something goes out that helps parents understand their children even more. And so that's what we're doing, and we're going to keep doing it until the wheels falls off, I guess.
Yes.
Or maybe just never stop.
That's right. That's right. Because adoption is going to be going on for a long time. It's not going anywhere.
Adoption's not going anywhere, but we can continually make it better for children.
Absolutely. So how can people get in contact with you?
Absolutely. So you can go to www.parentingdifferent.com and you can sign up for the free newsletter. You can follow me on Instagram at Isaac_Etter, ETTER. You can follow Parenting Different on Instagram at Parenting Different. And I think that's it.
Okay.
And you can find ways to contact me further from any of those sources.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
It's been great. And for all of you out there, I just want to remind you that this is Styles for Kids 15th year.
Wow, incredible.
We've been helping families for 15 years. It's incredible news. We've done a lot of classes. We've done a lot of training. We've helped a lot of families, and we want to keep doing that. So we're asking all of you out there to consider a $15 a month donation. $15 goes a long way.
Absolutely, absolutely.
When it comes to putting resources out there that are valuable for families and parents, and we want to continue doing that. Hair is a big deal, and we want to make sure that parents feel equipped, and we want to make sure they feel empowered to be able to provide hair care for their kids. And so when you give that $15 a month, you help us to do that. So the information is right here below. In addition to that, we want to thank our sponsor, Jockey Being Family, who's also committed to putting out adoption resources for parents and families. So you want to make sure you go to their website and check them out. Last but not least, we want to thank Isaac for being here with us. Don't forget to check out all of his resources that he has for you families out there. And then we'll be right back here in February for Black History Month. We'll be talking with another adoptee about their experience with Black history. And so we know that it's important, and we want to be able to preserve the history that has paved the way forward for Black Americans. And so we're going to be here talking about that. So thank you for joining us on this edition of Hairitage Talks, and we'll see you coming soon in February.
Maybe.